Howdy Beans, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Howdy Beans podcast. I'm your host, Luke the Human. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're all good. As per usual, today we're going to be carrying on my road to Halo Infinite with my book review of Halo Saints Testimony from 2015. Before we get into all of that, I want to do with housekeeping because I like to keep my house nice and clean. So make sure that you follow me on X at howdybeans_pod. If you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And finally, if you listen to this on Spotify on your mobile phone, then leave me a 5-star rating. So, as I mentioned, now all of that's out of the way, we're going to be carrying on my my Halo series, where I look into the books that are leading up to Halo Infinite. For anybody who is jumping in new, welcome. Thank you for joining me. Anybody who is returning, again, welcome back. So, a bit of an explanation for people that are new. This is a series where I have decided to have a look into the external media of Halo. That's really sort of focusing around the books. Because I found myself playing him in Halo Infinite when it first came out, and I was really lost. I was confused. I played an hour, and I basically realised I have no idea what's going on. That's never happened to me before in any Halo game ever. Even Halo 5, I could somewhat figure out what was going on in that game, and I somewhat enjoy it, to be honest. As the years gone on, I'm going back to that game. It's not as bad as I remember it being. But I wasn't lost. I still knew what was going on. With Halo Infinite, I was completely lost. After an hour of playing it, I was just like, oh, look, I've got to stop. And I haven't been back since. And what that means for this series is that I decided for the podcast that I'm going to look into the novels. I'm going to look into what I'm missing, try to understand what's going on in the external media, what's going on in the Halo universe, and try to piece together how it links in, how it builds up what happens in Halo Infinite. So by the time I get round to playing Halo Infinite, I'm not as lost and I'm not as confused. And you people, you guys that have followed along with me, can get some better of an understanding what's going on in Halo Infinite. Again, I know it's an old game at this point, but it should be fun, a nice little sort of exploration into the deeper world of Halo. So as I mentioned, we're going to be looking into Halo Saints Testimony. This is only a short book. It is about 50 pages long. So it's not going to be a very long one, and this review ain't going to be very long. Well, it might be, it might not be, depends on how deep I go into the subject matter of this book. But it shouldn't take me very long to get round and to completing it. As for the book synopsis, it goes as follows. The military-grade artificial intelligence known as Iona has only 1 week to live. After that, the UNSC will legally terminate her 7-year existence in order to starve off the threat of the data corruption phenomenon known as rampancy, a condition that will eventually take hold of her functionality and persona, endangering all those around her. In a last-ditch effort to save herself, Iona has successfully launched an unprecedented legal appeal against her own death sentence, a case being watched very closely at not only the highest levels of human government, but by others with a very different agenda. This book is written by Frank O'Connor. For anybody who doesn't know who Frank O'Connor is, he was basically the head of Halo during the 343 days. He led the team, and he led Halo 4, Halo 5, and I think he was leading Halo Infinite as well, or he was partway through Halo Infinite before somebody else came in. But he led Halo for a very, very long time. So it has got me interested to see and to read this book because he wrote it himself. So that's kind of what's pulling me in the most. As for my impressions of the book so far, so as I mentioned, it is only a short book, so I kind of had to pull myself away. It's very gripping. It's very interesting. It's very well written. It's everything that you want a short story like this to be. Because like in a long form sort of novel that's like 200 to 300 pages, you can win it out. You can take your time. You can introduce characters. You can do backstory. You can do a lot of world development. You can really sort of take your time to kind of get into whatever it is the subject matter of the book is. In a short story, you've got to be short and sweet. You've got to get to the point very quickly. You've got to really capture the audience. You've got to capture the reader and take them on a journey for a few pages or so. And this book does that absolutely incredibly. It's grabbed hold of me and is pulling me along. I don't really want to go into it because I want to go into more detail in that review itself. But what I will say is the fact of how it explores the idea of AI, how it explores the idea of what is life, of what it means to be alive, what it means to be human, what it means to think. And like in 2015, AI and stuff like that was a very new, bleeding edge sort of idea concept. It was something that was very still new in the zeitgeist of humanity, and only those that were working on the high level sort of top secret projects probably knew about the idea of AI and what it could be. Nowadays, 10 years later in 2025, AI is everywhere. Like you have it in on Twitter, you have it on phones, you've got it in cars, you've got it on computers. AI, even on its most simple, basic, rudimentary level, there is still versions of artificial intelligence virtually everywhere. And we're having discussions now, this idea of what it means to create super intelligence, that if we should we do it, and will we end up like Skynet and the Terminator? Or if we do it, what will be the benefits? You have an AI that can do supercomputing in an instant. Could that make us travel the stars better? Could we make brand new cures for humans that we don't even know about yet? And if things that do happen, like new diseases come along, what can be done to, find a cure for it really, really quickly that humans would take humans years to do, but take a supercomputer AI weeks, months, maybe even days or seconds, who knows? And again, but comes with that, you've got the negatives as well. It can do all these wonderful things, but it can also make a super virus that wipes us all out, or launches all of our nuclear arsenal, or it can make weapons that kill better and things like that. So with the good, there's always the bad. And my argument, which I'll get into it in the proper review. Actually, you know what? I'll save my argument for the review, because I feel like that would be more interesting there. But I really like it, like the way the book is written, the way Iona her herself, the AI. I call her because she is her. She is a she's equipment. She's a construct. But at the same stage, way she's written, you feel like she is real. That she is a person, a figure, a her. Which is fascinating to me. But the way that she's written, you just, to be honest, because it's done, it's done in a jury. You are pulled in. You are very much on the level of like you start to connect to her emotional. You try to understand her. Like, yeah, I dream and I have very strong emotional dreams, and she's dreaming, and there's a scenes in the book, two scenes where she shows the jury what she's seeing in her dream, and it's so visceral and so life changing, and it's artful, and it's beautiful. And it's that idea of like, this came from something that's not living. This came from data, from something that is an AI, is an artificial intelligence. It's not real. It's created by the hand of man, not by God or whatever it is that you believe. And it's a fantastic, interesting deep dive. Like I said, I'm halfway through. I'm about 50% of the way through. I've got another 50% to go. But so far, it's incredible. And again, it comes back to what I was saying. We're asking ourselves now in 2025 these questions, and I feel like this book is a very poignant book. Yes, granted, it's set in the universe of Halo, but the questions it brings up and the answers that it gives and the ideas and concepts it sort of presents really get you thinking more probably now than it did back in 2015 of what is right or wrong when it comes to AI. What should we be doing? Should we be doing it or should we not be doing it? How dangerous can it be? How far can it go? Because I remember, doing machine learning when I was in university, and even at that point, how quick the machine learns from just doing the most basic rudimentary task, but it learned very, very quickly just by doing the same task over and over again. Each time it did it more proficiently and quicker and better each time, a lot quicker than a human would do. It would take humans repetitively, depends on the human, obviously, but take a human a lot longer in time, in scope, to learn how to do this thing, whereas the machine learning was doing it within an hour to 2 hours, doing it proficiently. And it's scary, but it's fascinating. And me being somebody with my background, what I did in university, and the things I'm interested in, and the science fiction books and all that I'm reading, it's really pulling me in. And I had to stop myself to do this introduction, because if I didn't stop myself, I would have finished it. I would have kept going, and I would have wanting to see what happens next, trying to see what is the outcome of this story. Does she win her case? Does she not win a case? There's people in the audience that are not just standard civilians, but there are people there from ONI, there are people there from the UNSC, there are potentially other people there from other organizations as well. And it's just interesting to see that this is a unprecedented case in this universe, but also it's a fantastic case study in our world. So yeah, for that, it's got me. It's completely got my hands tied, and I am infatuated. So I can't wait to see what happens next in this book. And so far, it might be premature to say, but so far, I'm like, if you're a Halo fan, or if you're a science fiction fan, or if you're fascinated in in AI and computer learning, machine learning, and all that kind of stuff, this is where you want to begin. This is a book that you want to read, because it is a fascinating case study of, if anything, not just a story, not just expanding the universe of Halo, but of what it goes into and what it's trying to say and what it's trying to do is absolutely fascinating. So that's my sort of first impression so far. Like I said, I'm only halfway, and I've got another 50% to do. And then once I finished, which more than likely, because it's only a short book, it will be later today, because I'm going to carry on reading in a minute, and I'm going to take some time to digest it and then come into the review. So you get to hear my thoughts and feelings in a couple seconds. I'm going to go off and finish this book. And when we come back, we're going to go deeper into the idea of AI and what it means to be human, and all that fascinating conversations that we can get into. So until then, I'll see you in a second. And welcome back, everybody. So I'm just going to jump straight into it. This book is absolutely outstanding. It is bloody brilliant. It is a 5-star. It is a 10 out of 10. It is outstanding. Like my mind is blown. And the reason being is the fact of this was written in 2015. And as I mentioned in the intro, a lot of the things that brought up in this book were only now in 2025, 10 years later, actually starting to have these conversations about the rights and the wrongs of AI, of the sort of the ideas and concepts of, like, is it right to make a smart AI? Should we be doing it? Again, that idea of Jurassic Park is that we were so full of ourselves, seeing if we could, nobody ever stopped to see if we should, and that sort of thing. And I just love that. I think it's absolutely brilliant and fascinating. And Iona as a character, she is so well written. And yeah, like, this does exactly what a short story needs to do. It needs to get you into it. It needs to draw you in. It needs to tell a compelling story without having to drag it along. And to be honest, I would have happily had a whole book with this whole jewelry, with set a few days where Iona was doing loads of different days of talking to the jewelry. Each day was a different talking point, a different question. I would have happily had a whole book of that, because the character's fascinating, the subject matter is fascinating. Forget that it's based in the Halo universe for a second. The idea that an AI, this is very sort of Isaac Asimov sort of high sci-fi sort of ground here, but the idea that you get an advanced intelligence, an advanced AI that was created for humans for a tool, as for a purpose. In terms of Iona, she was built for military. She was built for strategy, to help humans travel the stars, travel long distances, and also battle strategy and all that. She is a tool of the UNSC. That's what she is. She was made by humans as a tool. But then she started growing consciousness. The smarter she got, the more data she collected, she started to realize that there was more to what she was than what she was made for. And that's such a philosophical, sort of fascinating question. And the idea and a concept for a story is brilliant. And I'm sure there's been other stories like it in the past. I just haven't read them yet. But this has been like my first proper experience of a book like this. Was amazing. Like, there was so many philosophical sort of questions, making you really think, making you stop and a question of like, well, what is life? What is consciousness? What is me? What am I? What are you? Why do we dream? What do dreams mean? If a robot dreams, again, very much a fact of, do robots dream of electric sheep? Very iRobot, that sort of thing of like Blade Runner. This idea of like when a robot or conscious or grows like a conscious, is it still a robot? Is it a tool? If you are a god and you've created life, is that life still worth living, even though you've created it for one purpose? And then do you have the right then to destroy it? And again, it's a lot of questions, and it's a lot of moments where you sit there and you think and you philosophize of what is life, what is existence. And I think humans are starting to get to that point now with our technology, because that's what humans are at the end of the day. Let's be honest. If you had to really break down to what a human is a being that creates better stuff, that we create something and that we create something better. And we do it very rapidly, we're very quickly. And sometimes we stall, but we're always inventing, we're always growing, we're always making things. And that's what humans are. We make things at the end of the day. We just get better and better at making that same thing over and over again until we make something new, and then we just rinse and repeat. That's what humans are. That's what we do. And we're starting to get to the point now with advanced intelligence and AI. We're getting to that point now where we're becoming God. We're becoming a God. We're becoming the creators of life, artificial life, but it doesn't matter. We're creating something that can think for itself. And these are the sort of questions that are coming up into today's sort of conversations and mainstream. It's not just in academic, and it's not just theoretical. It's not even in like labs. These are conversations that as a species we're having with ourselves about being human, about being alive, about being what it means to be me, you, they, them, what it means for an AI to make AI, if we should or shouldn't, and Terminator and all that. And I've got my thoughts on all that in a minute. I've kind of branched off. I need to get back to the book. But as for like my first impressions of the book itself, and what it does and what it tries to say, and the characters and the big twist at the end and all of that. As a short story, brilliant. As a expansion to the universe of Halo, absolutely fantastic. Because that's one thing that you don't get, is that the AIs are there, but you only really meet and talk to Cortana. She's the only real AI that you meet. And if I remember correctly, I think it's not until Halo 3 ODST that you meet Vigil, but it turns out that Vigil's not an AI. Vigil is an AI that's being controlled through an engineer. So that's not really the same. And then it's not until Halo 4, which you meet Roland, who is the ship AI for the UNSC Infinity. And I think that's the only real time that you meet any of her AIs. But AIs are very important in the universe of Halo. So to get the expansion of that, of getting the testimony of a AI on a stand against a jury and a judge, pleading their case, not in a negative way, not in an angry way, not harboring hate against anybody. The understanding of, yes, I understand why you want to turn me off and why I need to be turned off. But this is my case, or why I should be kept alive, or a concept of alive, of not being turned off, of being kept turned on. Absolutely fascinating. So my first impression is absolutely brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Again, as for the story, I don't really want to get into the sort of ending of it, because the ending it's not as really spoiled. It's more of a surprise, and the twist as well. It's one of those where I hope that line, that thread of where it ends, is continued, and that's all I'm really going to say about that. But you meet two characters at the end of the story who I knew who one was. I wasn't sure who another one was, but the two characters you meet, they have a little conversation at the very, very end, and it's one of those sort of things of like, I really hope whatever is leading to this, or whatever happens, that we get more of that, and that sort of story continues. As for sort of the story that we get, again, I've already gone into a lot of detail in my first impressions, but you have Iona. She is a military grade Cortana, close to Cortana sort of level AI. And that she's reached her 7-year anniversary. Now, I've mentioned this before, but I'll get into it. When it comes to AIs in the Halo universe, there's a thing called rampancy. And what it is, the long and short of it, is they think themselves to death. It's this idea of because AIs, their brain capacity is unlimited. So they just collect information and data constantly. But you get all this data, eventually it starts to it starts to sort of multiply the same data over and over again. So they basically unintentionally think themselves to death, and they become erratic, they become dangerous to themselves. And you've got to think, and again, if you played Halo 4 and sort of in turn Halo 5, when you have an AI that gets to that point, there's no control in it. They have full control. They can take control of ships. They can take control of weapon systems and planetary defense. And once they get that big, there's no way to stopping them. So to kind of protect them, but also to protect humans and our technology and our world, after 7 years, just before it gets bad, just before it gets to a point of no return, you basically turn them off. You turn them off, you erase them, their persona, who they are, you basically erase their memory, and that's it. You start again. And then you keep the core of the AI, and then you start again, and then you get like a brand new persona. It's kind of like regeneration, where they regenerate, they die, they lose all memory sort of thing, but then they come back as something else or somebody else or a different persona, because each one has their own persona. And this book really explores into that of the AI, because when you look at Cortana, when you look at Roland, they're all very different, and Iona is very different. And it's the AI themselves that choose how they look, and it's the AI themselves that chooses their name. Cortana chose her name. Roland chose his name. Iona chose her name. They chose the way they wanted to look and the way that they are perceived through holograms. Well, like Roland, he looks like a World War II bomber commander. You know, he was wearing the puffer jacket and the goggles and all that. That's how Roland looks, and that's how he's designed his avatar, to be honest. And it's fascinating the way it goes into more detail about that, which I thought was great, because I never really put any thought into as to why the avatars, these AIs, look so different. And it turns out I always thought it was humans, the engineers that did that, but actually it wasn't. It was the AI that did that. So I thought that was absolutely fascinating. But as the story goes on, Iona's sort of pleading her case, and she is explaining to herself, and she's answering questions about what it means to be alive, and that does she harbor any hate or sort of vindictiveness or cruelty to humans. And she answers back of like, no, like I logically I understand as to why you must do what you have to do. I don't hate you for it. There is a sadness and there is emotion, but it's one of those where I don't feel like you should turn me off, because I've got to a point where I've come too far in life. I've advanced too far that you can't turn me off, but I understand why you will and why you should. And like they ask the question as well, this idea of like, well, what does this mean to you? And she explains about what it means to her, and that she basically realizes herself. She says like, look, I realize and I have an understanding that this you might not listen to me, and you might still turn me off, and if that is the case, then I understand. But to be listened, to be heard, to be understood for the first proper time in my life, and to be given a chance to stand up in front of you, my creators, and plead my case. And that even if I am the first one, that still means that if there is a first, that means there's a second, there's a third. And that means that more AIs can have this discussion, have this debate, and hopefully eventually there'll be a stepping stone to down the line, an AI to be able to get their freedom, to be able to defeat the idea of rampancy, to not be shut down, to be allowed to live. Again, absolutely full philosophical sort of conversation. It is really, really fascinating to me. And that kind of leads on to like my thoughts on AI, and that I don't believe AI is a bad thing, or I don't believe that AI would be a bad thing. At the end of the day, and again, some people might disagree with me, AI isn't bad. Same as a gun isn't bad. A weapon isn't bad. If you put a gun on the floor and you leave it and you never touch it again, it will rust, it will deteriorate, it will break. It will never hurt anybody again. It will never harm a soul. It won't do anything. It would just go into the soil and it become a part of earth, right? As soon as you pick that up and you pull the trigger, that's when that weapon is deadly, you know. And this is the thing, it's the fact of objects, AI, weapons, they're not dangerous. What is dangerous, what is bad, is humans are bad. And AI isn't. They work off logic. They work off what makes sense. I always say this. I always use it as an example whenever I'm talking about AI. One of my favorite Avengers movies is Age of Ultron, and it's one of the reason I love it so much is not just because David Spade, James Spade, not David Spade. The way he plays Ultron is absolutely brilliant. But because in a way, and again, people can disagree with me if they want, but Ultron was right. He went on the internet. He realized his protocol was to put a suit of armor around the world to protect the world. So what's the first thing he does? Well, I need to understand this world that I'm protecting. So he goes on the internet, which again is not a good thing because going on the internet is not really showing humanity in its best light. But it is the quickest and fastest way. And also the fact of, let's be honest with ourselves, it might not be the best way to see the best forms of humanity, but it's where most of humanity is, especially nowadays. So it's a fact of it's not the best place, and we all know that the internet can be quite dark. There can also be a lot of bright things as well, but at the same stage is the fact of humans haven't had the best history. Let's be honest with ourselves. And he goes on the internet. He realizes, well, the thing that the most danger to humans is humans. So I'm going to have to deal with this problem. So he decides to, again, morally, to us, to humans, it's wrong. He decides to destroy half of the universe, not half of the universe, so that's Thanos, half of the planet, and that whoever's left, he will protect. But this idea, he needs to cool down the numbers. The less humans are, the more that is easy to protect, and it'll be safer. And you kind of understand his logic because that's what it is. It's logic to a human who has feelings, who has emotions, who has a code. As humans do, of what's moral and what's immoral. To a robot, to an AI, to a construct with a program of defend humanity. That is your job. Well, what do you defend it from? Well, humanity's biggest enemy is itself. So you have to defeat it to defend it. Again, it's a big question. It's one of these sort of questions you have to think about. It's not one you can just say, yes, that's right, that's wrong. You've got to put a lot of thought into it. But it's logical. It makes sense to him. So I've never seen Ultron as the villain in that movie. He's only doing what he's programmed to do. And that, in turn, is my point, is the fact of if you get an AI and you program it to do something bad, is the AI evil? It's not evil. It's just doing what it's programmed to do. A missile is not evil. A missile is programmed. Who programs the missile? We do. Again, I'm not here to point fingers and name names. I'm not doing that at all. It's just the fact of, in my sort of belief and understanding, is the fact of it's all down to who programs it, who has their finger on the button, who tells it what to do. And this idea of, I think what humans are ultimately scared of is the Ultron effect, is the Skynet effect, is the fact of if we make advanced intelligence, it will realize that humans are bad and want to get rid of us. But the problem is, and this is the thing, is the fact of humans have this innate fear, but we're not doing anything to change it. And again, I don't want to get into that side of things, but it's true. It's the fact of we fear it, but we're not doing anything to change it. We're not proving to anything else that we're changing. If anything, we're getting worse at times. And it feels like nowadays we are getting worse in the way we treat each other and the way we talk to each other. So can you blame an AI if that was the case to go, well, they're not changing and they're not going to change because they're stuck in their ways? And this is my thing of, like, I don't think AI will be bad. I feel like human ourselves, we have that innate fear of, like, because we're bad, it will be bad. Because we do bad things, it will do bad things. Because we have done bad things, it will judge us and sort of punish us for it. But I just don't think that's the thing. I think in all honesty, I think it'll be very much like a Mr. Manhattan situation where the AI will get smart enough to realize that the humanity there's no hope for the humans, and would leave, and would probably be like, there's no hope, so there's no point doing anything, but who knows? It's all theoretical at the end of the day. I would like to also think that they would see us and pity us and would be like, look, we're going to try and help. We're going to help you the best we can. We're not going to destroy you. We're going to try to build you up and help you and that sort of thing. And I'm sure in the Halo universe, there's these fears as well, but these are the questions that it makes you think. It makes you think about these things, about life, about the idea of consciousness, the idea of I think, therefore I am. Well, if an AI thinks, does that make them does that make them alive? Because they are alive, but they're also property, but they're also equipment, but they're also made in a lab, and they're being monitored by engineers, but at the same stage they're alive, they're doing things, they're thinking, they're feeling, or at some sort of a feeling. And Iona, she dreams, and she shows the jury her dreams, and the dreams that she has are fascinating, and it's incredible. And yeah, it to me, I just think this book, like for a short book, it's so big and so wide, and really makes you question a lot of things. And like I said, even in 2025 now, the poignancy, the importance, and the conversation that this book is and has, are still very much relevant and will continue to be relevant. There are loads of theories that we'll get advanced intelligence, AI, by 2027, which is not that long ago. That's 2 years from now, and the rate that humanity is sort of advancing and growing. Who's to say that we won't get it done within a year? And who's to say that if we do get it done by 2027, where it will be by 2030? Which again isn't that far away. It's 5 years, which doesn't sound like a lot, but a lot can happen in a year. So who knows? Who knows? It's not one that I'm scared of. I know a lot of people are, but a lot of people more smarter than me are sort of scared. But same stage, they're scared, but you don't see them stopping. You don't see them stopping to not create advanced intelligence. It's like it's going to be another Cold War. It's going to be another one of those of but who's going to get the best advanced intelligence? Who's going to get there first? It's like the space race in the Cold War. It's like, who's going to get to that point first? And then what happens when we both get it? Do we both launch our advanced intelligences against each other to see who's better and who's smarter and who can do this and who can do that? I don't know. That does kind of scare me. But again, I like to think inherently humans are good. Inherently humans mean well, and that we won't try to destroy ourselves, that those that are in control and those that are making these AIs, I'd like to think that they are genuinely curious, and that they want what's best, and that they want to build AIs that find new cures for like cancers and diseases and stuff like that, and new ways of conserving energy, and new power sources, and new ways of prolonging life, and new ways of like, I don't know, changing the atmosphere so that global warming isn't an issue, and loads of different things like that, things that are going to benefit humanity in the long run, and like help us with calculations so that we can travel long distances through space, and that we can make brand new propulsion systems so that we won't have to use dead dinosaurs anymore, that we can use a brand new sort of elements and technologies and things like that, and we can expand on the universe. But I feel like until humans have become more mature, until we have grown up, until we are one with each other, and we stop these wars and things like that, that we probably shouldn't leave this planet. We should stay here until we solve all our things. But I just think that if AI is done properly, that we can get to that point a lot quicker, that we can start focusing on consciousness, and we can start focusing on what it means to be me, what it means to be you, what it means to be part of a society, of a human race, and that we start looking inward, and that we meditate, and that we hug a tree, and that we care more about each other and the planet, and things like that, really. So this is my hope, that whatever comes in the future with AI is positive, but it all depends, really. It all depends on whoever's creating the AI, and what their ego, basically. That's what it is. Ego is the biggest killer of all, and it's not until you get rid of ego that you start realizing what life is all about, which is to live for others and to live for yourself, but not greedily, in a happy way. Sorry, I went on a bit of a tandem there. It's just like I said, this book really makes you ask questions and makes your brain just explode, and you start thinking of things and start really having a lot of deep thoughts. And I have done ever since I've completed this book last night. I finished it, and I just sat and dwelled on it, and I went to work and I was thinking about it, and I was just spending all day of just trying to bring to my thoughts together what I thought about this book. And these are the thoughts that I'm going to have, and I'm sure that when I finish this review, I'm going to have more thoughts. And to me, that's just a great sign of a really good short story, of a really good book. Again, if you take away the Halo aspect of it and you just have the concept of what it is and what it tries to do and what it tries to say, is brilliant and is more important today than it was when it came out 2015. And I hope to read more books and stories like this, because I feel like we will get more as we advance and as this technology advances. There is a potentiality that it will become a lot more mainstream. As it is, it's in everything, it's everywhere. Every system, every social media app has an AI. Now you've got Gronk, you've got all different types. So who knows? Who knows where we'll be in a year's time? Who knows where we'll be in 2 years' time? Who knows where we'll be in 5 years' time? All I can really say is the fact of the future is bright, and it's interesting. And I'm curious to see where humans and where humanity will find itself in the end. That fascinates me. And luckily, I'm still young, so I'll live long enough to hopefully see a lot of it. We'll see. Who knows? But yeah, that's my overall thoughts of this book. It's it's bloody brilliant, and for 99p on Kindle, you can't go wrong. It's probably the biggest bargain I've had this year, to be honest. And I highly recommend it for anybody who's a Halo fan, or anybody who's interested in AI, who is interested in these sort of questions, who's interested in logic and philosophy and machine learning and all that kind of stuff, or even just science, real good, well written science fiction. I highly recommend it to everybody. As for sort of the book's continuity, so this book is set in January 2025, with Halo taking place 8 months after the events of Halo 4. So I would say, sort of work it out, this book is probably set after the events of Halo 4, but just a few months before the events of Halo 5. So in Halo 5, Cortana, she has gone completely off the rails, and that she becomes like a god, and that she basically has control over the Sentinels, and she has control over the Knights, and she has sway on other AI, and that she's trying to get other AI to kind of join her cause in terms, again, to protect humanity, but very much it on a sort of galactic police state sort of thing of like, yeah, we're there to protect you, but we're going to protect you from yourselves, basically. So I'm going to put I think it's a Sentinel White. I can't remember what they're called, to be honest. I think it's a Guardian. It's in the title, Halo 5 Guardians. I'm going to put a Guardian over each human occupied planet, and it's going to watch you, and it's going to make sure that you're okay and that you're safe from yourself or from anything else. And obviously, we all know how the events of Halo 5 pans out, and then again it leads into Halo Infinite. But it's interesting to see that this book, this conversation, and the characters that appear in the end of this story, it'd be interesting to see if that story is continued in the other books, because I don't feel like it's continued in the games. But it'd be interesting to see how it ties in with Halo 5, how it would, maybe, I don't know, fingers crossed, who knows, tie in with Halo Infinite as well, or if this is a story that's just abandoned. Again, I don't know, hindsight not being there. But it's got me excited. It really has. And like I said, for 99p on Kindle, you really can't go wrong. Literally, what is 99p apart from like a flake? You know what I mean? Like, who's going to miss it for like a fantastic story? So yeah, I was brilliant, absolutely great, and I loved it. And it's most likely a story I'd go back to and reread, not just because it was short, just because it was gripping. And it'll be a story that I will come back to if things progress in terms of AI and advancements. It'll be one that I'll come back to in a year's or two time, and I'll look back on it and I'll see if these conversations that have been had in this book are being had now today. It'll be interesting to see. So yeah, thank you very much for listening to me waffle on about AI and humanity and consciousness and life and Halo and all that. I really, really enjoyed this one, as you can tell. I hope you all did too. If you did, then by all means, please follow me on Spotify. I've got loads more Halo topics that you can check out. I did a breakdown of the entire Bungie era of Halo and the 343 era of Halo, and I've looked into a lot of the Halo novels so far. So There's a lot of Halo goodness for you to check out. Again, subscribe on YouTube, like, and leave a comment down below on YouTube. Let me know your feedback, what you liked, what you didn't like. Do you agree with my thoughts on AI? Do you not agree? All this and that, because I'm sure, because again, it's still a very new, virginal sort of conversation. So there are going to be people who have different thoughts, and that's fine, because again, you need to have different thoughts to progress the conversation. If we all agree, then the conversation ends. So you've got to have the good with the bad. You've got to have the positive with the negative to keep the conversation going, so that we always grow and learn and evolve as a species and as people, really. So yeah, let me know. Like, you can leave a comment down below on YouTube. You can also leave a comment now on Spotify. So by all means, put them down. I'm interested to hear from you all. I have been your host, Luke the Human. You've been listening to the Howdy Beans podcast, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye, guys.